be no normal
I
weather.
know. It just turns very polarized.
We fly in the morning there, so we're coming home, we fly like 7
How you doing?
o'clock.
You made me parallel park tonight, but I didn't.
I made you parallel. Oh,
I
right now?
parked at the end.
Oh, did you park in Chiefs?
No, in the mayor's old spot.
Oh, that's where Tammy usually parks right now.
I hate parallel parking.
All right, we'll call to order the Ravenna City Council meeting for Monday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from July 18th. Were there any additions or corrections to those? We have a motion to approve as submitted.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, the second item on the agenda is an ordinance to accept a $1,000 donation from Swagelok for the fire department. Ms. Michael, Public Health and Safety.
This is just accepting the money. There is no match required. Also with the next ordinance as well. This has been a yearly thing, and it's a very nice thing that Swagelok does for our safety forces, and I think we should accept the money.
Questions from council? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
All right, and like Ms. Michael said, the next one is for the police department, an ordinance to accept $1,000 donation from Swagelok. Were there any questions on that one? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
All right, and number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign a contract for the school resource officer. This is public health and safety as well. Ms. Michael?
I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over to Mayor Seaman. This wasn't on my committee meeting, but this is something standard. I don't believe there's any changes. Is there any additional?
No, I believe it's 50/50, isn't it, Chief? You'll remember a few years ago when we had some of the shootings, there was a clamor for having social workers in the schools, and in order to help the school obtain the social worker, we agreed to paying half the salary that is spent on him being there with that.
Any questions? I know, at one point, I will say real quickly, I think Brian had recommended, and it's a shame that it never happened, but it's a shame that the township can't also contribute, because there are kids that do go to the school from the township, and it would have been nice to be able to split that, but again, safety of our kids is number one, so we'll continue to do our part as the city. That's all.
There's no questions. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
All right, number 5 on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with JD Striping and Services. This is sponsored by Streets and Sidewalks.
Yep, this is our annual striping and pavement marking program. JD Services won the bid, and they'll do all the markings and at a cost of $73,700 to the city.
Questions on this item? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And number 6 on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with T. Manfres and Associates, sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karras.
Yeah, this is a contract to help pretty much get us through or up to issuing a bond for building City Hall, Fire Department, Police Department on the recently acquired land of the old high school. And there's been a change to clearly indicate what's being paid for at this stage is $23,900, which was the starting point, but the contract sort of had some other fees built in. Wording has been added to indicate that those additional costs would be considered once the bond issue has been approved, correct? So we're back on track with this. I think it's ready to go forward, and it's exciting to hear that we might be planning, to have a new home.
Yeah.
Fun.
Questions from council? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
And number 7 on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit a residential public infrastructure grant sponsored by Community and Economic Development. Ms. Wood?
Yes. We discussed this one at committee. It's a grant. the water tower.
Yes, the RPIG grant, Residential Public Infrastructure Grant, maximum of $750,000,
No, this wasn't.
potentially $500,000, maximum $750,000. We did apply last year, but I believe we were too late applying.
Yeah.
So this year, of course, we have our fingers crossed. And
Yep. This was not on committee, but I think it's a good idea to get started early. I think as Bogo said.
So this is a first come, first serve, so
Mhm.
we need to get in as soon as
Yeah.
possible before they give it away.
Understood.
They just opened up the application last week on Tuesday after we had committee meetings, so that's why it was not on committee. And they called on Tuesday and said they just opened up the applications, we want to get it in as soon as possible so that we might be able to get the funding. And that's a large chunk to put towards the water tower project.
700 max for a $2 million project.
750. Remember, we've secured $1,050,000 already. So this really will help us finalize it.
We did receive it.
Questions from council? Pleasure of the committee.
Ordinance.
Number 8 on the agenda is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-110, Exhibit A, to add 2 water distribution workers. This is for discussion this evening. Kay, can I throw it to you for this? Or
Okay.
Mr. Calfee, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, but
Let me take it.
Well, I just wanted to mention that at last month's, or this month's committee meeting of personnel, we began to talk about this item, and we requested some additional information to look at regarding these jobs and what these changes entailed. And I was under the impression that we were going to go back to committee with it, but it's here with committee of the whole, and I think those things that we asked for, you have received copies of those, and we're probably ready to talk about it. Okay?
Okay, so all I'm asking council approval on is to add 2 distribution workers to the payroll ordinance at range 16, which would be the low end $24.22 an hour, the high end $30.72 per hour. The water distribution department, or crew, however you want to call it, will continue to run out of the street department, but those distribution workers will report to the utility operator and not the street superintendent. Like, as I said at the last meeting, the conversation I had with EPA back in June was they are highly recommending that the city gets certified workers in water distribution, and we are going to require a minimum of a Class 1 water license for those individuals. All personnel in the water distribution department will be required to assist the street department with any needed work when they aren't dealing with water distribution related issues. And this would also hold true that they would assist the meter tech also when they aren't doing water distribution issues.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just have a quick question. You said it was gonna be housed, the department would be at the street department, but who would be the supervisor for that?
Utility operator.
Utility operator, okay,
And the utility operator is already in the payroll ordinance
okay.
at range 18. So all we're asking is just to add 2 distribution workers to the payroll ordinance.
Is there
So-
someone
oh,
in
go ahead.
in the utility operator's position now?
No.
Okay.
What's happening right now is we don't have anyone down there with a license, so we have a couple individuals that are working under Chuck and Jason's water licenses. So the work can get done.
So it's not an addition to the budget, it's an open line, but the
That's-
other 2 are additions to the budget.
Yes.
So I have a question then. Okay, so it sounds like then, if this goes through, when they would be doing street department work at times, is there financially money allocated from the street department to pay them when they would be doing whatever?
It would be out of that department.
The street department?
Mhm.
Well, this, what I'm asking, is there money in there already to cover that?
Well, I'm sure that, that can be worked out.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at,
I realize what you're getting at, but I'm just saying, it's not gonna be like an everyday occurrence, so.
oh, no, I realize that, but let's.
Brian, maybe you could,
Yeah,
maybe
I
you
was just
could,
gonna say, Brian.
So are you trying to say if there's, like an allocation of their salaries to the street fund and to the
Well, when
different funds?
not an exact dollar amount, because I know that's hard to say, but I'm just gonna throw a figure out. Let's,
Well, I think the question at the heart is are funds available to pay for the 2 extra workers? Is that what you're asking?
out of the street department, because,
Just generally speaking then, is that?
I mean, it depends on what percentage, I mean, we haven't really sat down and came up with a certain percentage, like what percentage of work is gonna be related to street versus water. I mean, I would assume the bulk of this would come out of water and sewer, and the street department would have like a much smaller percentage, but I guess we'd have to talk about that. But it will be an add-on to whatever funds we allocate it to. Like, many of our salaries are allocated to different funds. I mean, even the street department has 5 different funds they're allocated to. I mean, they're half out of the street fund, but then the other half is divided up between water, sewer, storm, and recycling. So we would probably do something similar with these guys, but it would probably be the heavier portion on, I'd assume, the water fund. And maybe the sewer fund. I don't know what they do sewer-wise,
it would
too.
just depend what tasks they were doing.
So, I mean, I think the bulk of the funding would be water sewer, but there'd be some small portion out of the street fund as well. The street fund is operating right now under a surplus, so it would have a little bit of extra money. I wouldn't want to put the whole 2 new positions on there, but a small portion of it, yes, would be fine for that fund.
yeah, that's why I was wondering
Yeah.
how small of a portion, because, let's say in the winter, if they're plowing snow a lot,
Yeah.
then how much approximate would that eat up? And if there's plenty to go above a small portion, just wondering these things, so we have more to go on.
I think from now until the 12th, when committee meetings take place, we'll have a chance to ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah, maybe we'll sit down with Kay and then Chuck too as well and kind of talk to them and see what do they foresee with that position. And it is going to depend on how much, the winter is and how bad the snow is.
Well, I know that part's
But-
unpredictable,
Yeah.
but just wanting something,
So what we're gonna have to do, we already have the 23 budget passed, but we'll have to make an amendment to it because these positions aren't in it currently, of course, because we didn't budget for those. So we'll add to each fund whatever a percentage we kind of agree upon, if it's 10% street or 15% street or whatever, and then put the rest in the water and the sewer and whatever like that. So that will be an add-on to the budget at some point if this goes through and is approved.
okay, that's what I mean. I know you're using those percentages just as an example.
Yeah.
Well, let's just take that as a small example. So if that, let's say 10% is used up, okay, then if it starts eating into that farther, then that's not real good.
True, right. And you'd have to have additional budget amendments at that point. Just same thing as, like if you need more money for vehicle maintenance or for something like that, you'd have to go back and get it approved at that point, if that's the case. All you can do is make your best guess estimate and go with it as budget and then adjust it as the year goes on.
And I really don't foresee that happening on a regular basis
Yeah.
either, so.
So can you state, I mean, what we've been given in our packet, the utility operators in the budget, no added costs for that?
Yeah, because we budget by position, so that should already be in the budget.
Right,
for
it's just we just
23
haven't
as well.
spent the money.
Yeah, if we're not spending it, it's just money that goes back to the fund, but.
So the 2 new positions in the water distribution department are range 16, and have you given us a range of how much that's gonna be in addition, including benefits and so forth?
I haven't done that yet, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
I
would
can-
be helpful. And
Yeah.
then, we were also given the information about meter techs.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that's because there may be a reduction there to offset the two other positions.
That's what I'm hearing, yeah, I haven't been involved, but yes.
So by the committee meetings, if we could have that information, so we can see the impact on the budget, that would be.
Positive and the negative, right.
Well, it's gonna be, it's gonna be an
It's gonna
addition.
be more, of course, but there'll be some offset to it,
Okay.
because the meter tech position would have the same insurance and everything, so that part would be the same, it'd just be a lower rate.
Yeah, it's a lower rate, or range. Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know, so I'm trying to understand all of this. Utilities is certainly not my bailiwick. I can't go out and shadow the water distribution department because it doesn't exist yet. So I went on Tuesday of last week and spent about 3 hours with the meter techs, just to see what they did, the work that they did. And, you know, it's just, I just wanted to share, that we have some really hardworking employees in the city. Some really, really hardworking employees in the city that really care a lot about this city. I just, in just watching them work, I struggle with having one meter tech, because a lot of the things that they do need someone else there. And I'm not sure how much water distribution is gonna be able to back them up. I think as far as safety goes, having someone with you as well, but also being able to do the work quickly and promptly. You know, we went out, they were constant for 3 hours while I was with them until they took a lunch, as far as working with shutoffs, checking to make sure there was no leaks, all of those things. And certainly the new meters are helpful for that, but the hands on the ground people that are going out to see our residents, and not only our residents, they're in the township too.
Yes.
Because we service the water in the township as well, so, you know, it just was, I wanted to share that it was a really positive experience to see those guys work together. The department runs great, and so to reduce that, I struggle with. I know it's not my decision in the long run, but I just kind of wanted to understand how it all worked, so I wanted to share that. So if anybody wants any further details on anything they did, I can certainly share.
Yeah, I mean, just considering this proposal, that was the one area that I do have some concerns about. And that's why having the figures will be very helpful. I mean, without worrying about money, I would suggest the 2 new positions sound like a good idea. I'm just worried, from what you just said, of eliminating one of those meter tech positions.
I think for tonight, we'll hold off on discussion till September committee meetings. So if there's any questions for Brian that weren't here tonight, or Kay, can round those up in an email or discuss in a couple weeks. So with that, we'll move on to number 9 on the agenda, is an ordinance to accept the proposal by Love Insurance for insurance renewal.
Okay. So this is an annual housekeeping item. This includes the property, auto, and cyber, and all other type of insurance. We're still using Love Insurance, and Love Insurance helps bid out to get the best and most cost-efficient insurance. So they bid it out to all the different insurance companies, they compete for these. I just talked to them today. They're putting together the final numbers now, but they're still waiting on a couple quotes on a couple of different things. The cyber market right now is extraordinarily difficult to get into. You have to have extraordinarily good procedures just to even get accepted for a quote, but the prices are much, much higher. Like in Kent, we don't even have it right now because we can't get a quote. It's very difficult to get these right now, but he does have one quote for us, and he's trying to get another quote. They're being kind of coy with him a little bit, so that price will be a little higher on that end. And also on the insurance for the buildings and grounds, and also the vehicles, they're also up because of inflation. So what they base it on replacement costs of buildings, replacement costs of vehicles, and he said they're experiencing at least 5% or more higher on those as well. So he's getting the quotes the best he can together, but he did say to expect them to be higher. He's seen it for other municipalities, other townships, other villages. They're all across the board much higher. And it's because they have to insure a higher value in all these buildings and vehicles. So as soon as I get those numbers, he promised them to me by the end of the week or the latest Monday of next week. So I'll pass those out to everybody.
Brian, for the cyber, did they mention
Yeah.
anything about I know we talked last year about having certain trainings and stuff.
Yes.
Is that being looked
He
at
has
this
not
year?
mentioned that one to me specifically, so I don't remember seeing that on the questionnaire that I looked at, but.
Perfect.
Yeah, because we had QIP help with the questionnaire. I filled out part of it. They did part of it with us. I don't remember seeing it, but we definitely still want to look at that, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Do you think those prices will change much, or do you
On the
anticipate?
cyber?
Or just altogether?
Well, just because there's at least 5% more, at
Okay.
least, minimum. Just because they're covering more costs. And they said really the costs are more like 10% more, but the insurance companies are trying to keep it down to 5, because when it gets more than that, people start panicking.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
cool. Thank
Any
you.
questions from council? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Okay.
All right. And number 10 on the agenda is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Portage County Budget Commission. This is also,
Okay, so this is also an annual housekeeping item too. Because they did some revaluations on the housing market right now, housing prices have gone up, and this actually will benefit us in this case. Because last year, our tax estimate was $625,838. This year, it's gone up, I think you have the attachment, it's $704,522. So that's almost $80,000 extra we should be getting next year in general fund property taxes. So that's one good thing of inflation. Yeah.
any questions on this item? It's the pleasure of the committee.
Ordinance. Resolution.
Resolution. thank you.
Ah,
Yeah,
Cheryl got it.
yeah. Well, then we just need a
Good
motion.
prize.
Well, wouldn't we do this at the next meeting?
Yeah, move it on. All right, that's everything on the agenda. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And at 6:22, we'll call to order the Ravenna City Special City Council meeting for August 22nd. And Chelsea, would you call the roll?
Mr. Kelfy?
Here.
Ms. West?
Here.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Here.
Ms. Wood?
Here.
Mr. Harper?
Here.
And would you read the call?
You are hereby notified that a special meeting of the Ravenna City Council has been called for Monday, August 22nd, 2022, immediately following the Committee of the Whole meeting, which begins at 6 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss and/or act upon Ordinance 2022-81 for the School Resource Officer and Ordinance 2022-82 to apply for a grant for the Water Tower project.
All right, so 2 items on the agenda tonight. First one being ordinance number 2022-81.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for the 2022-2023 school year for the school resource officer and declaring an emergency.
Sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael, anything you want to add?
Nope, we just spoke about this, and there's really nothing to add. It's keeping our children safe, and it's our share of the money.
If there's no questions, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelfy?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Kelfy?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelfy?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item, final item on the agenda is an ordinance ordinance number 2022-82.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for a CDBG Residential Public Infrastructure Grant, RPIG, for the water tank project and declaring an emergency.
Sponsored by Community and Economic Development. Ms. Wood?
Yes, once again, up to $750,000 will be sought after for this grant to go towards the very extensive water tower project.
Questions? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
All right, that is everything on the agenda this evening. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.